Couple of rifle upgrades and one for your pistol this time. We're trying out the Magpul Enhanced Selector Kit, the Raidworx ARIS Sling, and Holosun's 507 comp on today's Gear Grind. Let's start small with the Magpul ESK Enhanced Selector Kit. Polymer latches, fully customizable for your preferences. Fit. Pretty much any AR-15, AR-10, AR-9, whatever you've got. If you've got a mil-spec safety, the ESK should drop in just fine. There's nothing too weird about the inside of the drum, so most triggers should work with it just fine as well. Installation for the different levers is really easy too. Whereas some companies use Loctite, screws, or even spring-loaded detents, the ESK holds in place just with a polymer insert and a very tight fit. You get a couple of them for whatever look or configuration you need. Feel. The ESK, whether it's in the 45 or 90 degree configuration, feels appropriately snappy and tactile. Even with the polymer levers, there's nothing that feels mushy or cheap about it, which is a great thing. The parts that touch metal are metal, so that's good. As far as the levers, you get 3, which you can configure pretty easily for your preferences. I like the long lever on my support side, the short on the strong, so I don't get any interference with the meat of my shooting hand. Form. The one thing that's a little questionable is how chunky the ESK looks in comparison to some safeties, but I think these are still well designed. All the lines flow in a familiar Magpul styling with a texturing that's grippy enough without being too distracting. And for newer shooters, having the direct contrast with a red pin on their lever can help in knowing on whether they've engaged the safety or not. It's a small benefit, but might help a lot of folks who are less confident with the AR and want to learn. I'm always a little skeptical of safeties. It's a part that's crucial and kind of easy to get wrong. But in my test of the ESK, Magpul nailed it, which isn't super surprising. No issues with the safety not doing its job, nor any issues with trigger compatibility. At least what I could find over the course of trying it out. I will say the long lever that doesn't fully extend outward is baffling to me. I don't know why anybody would want that, but that was the only lever I actively disliked using. But since we can swap that stuff out, no real issue for me. Features. I think the customization is the big winner here, and by extension, the ergonomics. The ESK isn't just nice to use in spite of the polymer, the whole package comes together really well, and it can be tailored specifically to your preferences on ambi safeties. I do wish there were a few more color options available, but black and Magpul standard FDE will give most folks plenty of options for their builds. I think the price point is maybe a little aggressive at $50, but you can definitely spend more for less benefit than you see here. As for the sling on this rifle, it's the Raidworx ARIS 2.0, the Adaptive Rifle Interchangeable Sling. Say that 5 times fast. Fit. The ARIS features a fairly thin 1-inch diameter at either end, which will work for basically any sling loop attachment you want to go with. QD, hooks, or just run through existing loops, this is a great choice for an AR or a more traditional rifle. You do also get a thin sling pad. This helps distribute some of the pressure you'll feel from a heavier rifle without giving you a lot of the bulk that you can potentially snag on your gear if you're wearing any. Feel. As I mentioned, that thin strip of padding does seem to go a long way. If you're fully loaded on ammo and hiking for long periods, having a sling that doesn't dig into your shoulder is a big benefit. Other than that, it's a pretty nice lightweight sling. If you like slings that are more slick, not as bulky overall compared to thicker or more heavily padded options, I think you'll like how the ARIS fits. Sleek and functional is the name of the game here. Visually, the ARIS is pretty no frills, with black hardware and a straightforward set of colors to choose from. Black, Coyote, Ranger Green, and Multicam give you a good variety to choose from and match fine to most of the gear that's out there. If you've got a really specific look you're trying to achieve, you'll likely have to look elsewhere. Function. Testing out the ARIS, I really enjoyed it. I've reviewed quite a few slings at this point, and while I wouldn't say the ARIS stands head and shoulders above anything else, I think it's a great option. The sling is able to be adjusted by a simple webbing loop so you can choke up or get some slack where you need it. It's not as easy to snag as some others, as it's fairly thin with no contrasting colors, but it's simple, it works. If you train with it, it'll serve you just fine. Features. The ARIS is a really good sling, but I think the best thing about it is the build quality. This sling uses mil-spec webbing and Cordura uses low IR spectrum materials if you're a night vision guy. You've got US-made steel and acetal hardware, and the stitching is nice and sound. I think at this price point of around $50, it's a pretty fair buy and competitive with a lot of other slings. Up to you to decide if it's for you at that point. Now for an optic which has become very popular in competition shooting for some very good reasons. Here's the Holosun 507 comp with the big window. And don't worry, she's clear. Fit. The 507 comp uses the de facto standard of RMR pattern for mounting direct to a pistol slide. It also comes with a few different screws for mounting into your pistols depending on the length and thread pitch you might need. I was able to get this on a Glock MOS without any real issue, but your mileage may vary. Whether you have to make a hardware store run or invest in a different plate for your pistol, there's thankfully a ton of options out there and you'll find one that works. Beyond that, it's a bit chunky, so expect a little overhang on your slide. Feel. Like with any Holosun pistol optic, this baby feels about as substantial as you might need. And this thing is big, wider and taller than most red dot sights, but since we're gearing this towards competition, having as large of a viewing area as we can open to us, that's exactly what we want. Controls also feel tactile and snappy, but the side load battery door continues to leave a little bit desired from Holosun. Just be careful with those small screws when you're changing batteries. Form. It's a big old box that rides on your pistol slide. I'm not really sure what else to say really. In terms of looks, I don't think it'll drag basically any gun down, but it's definitely better suited to your typical blocky modern striker file pistols. Might look awkward on a Beretta 92, that's all I'm saying. But other than that, you've got a pretty shiny anodized finish out of the box. I'd prefer it a little bit more matte, but if you're a regular competitor, this thing will lose that sheen in favor of some well-earned scratches in no time. Function. 100% out of the box. I didn't really see any issues with the sample I tested. This sight includes Shake Awake, which is always a great option for getting the most out of your battery life without babysitting the power button. No power failures under recoil. The brightness settings across the red and green reticle models give you exactly what you need for visibility. And you have a ton of options with the reticle with a 2 MOA dot with 8, 20, and 32 MOA circles so you can get the right bead on your target through that huge window up front. Features. Holosun's competition reticle is really cool, and besides that big field of view, it's the most defining feature. Using the red dot with the 8 MOA circle is basically just a way to give you an even larger dot to paint onto targets and send rounds home. And you can basically set this up per stage when you're shooting this in competition, or leave it tailored to your all-around preferences, your choice. But the advantages you get with that reticle system are big ones, so if you like shooting matches, definitely don't sleep on this one. I hope you all enjoyed this video and learned something helpful on your gear search. Next up, we'll be diving into some more gun upgrades with a look at some new AT3 goodness. And as always, if there's an AR or pistol upgrade you want me to go hands-on with, drop a comment below. I'll give you my honest take on it in a future video.